Hey everybody, before we get started, I just want to remind you this episode is brought to you by our patrons like LTFGO Comics, Qua, and Drago66. If you like what we do and want to see us do more, consider supporting us on Patreon. It'll really help us out, and you get access to lots of good goodies. Thanks for your support, everybody.
Thank you.
We kind of talked over each other there. Anyway, hey everybody, welcome to Let's Talk FGO. At some point, I stopped really caring about the intro because we've just been doing this so long. We're on episode 61, Wow. That means only 2 more months until episode 69. Hey.
Kick it.
Anyway, I am P1 Omega. With me as always is P2 Lucky. And get ready to insert some coins, guys.
Booyah. Everyone, I hope you are enjoying Fate Grand Order, aka one hell of a fetch quest. And while we here at Studio Omega like to bring you the latest in FGO-related news and memes, we will be talking about the current and future events for both the JP and EM versions of the game. So anyone not wanting spoilers, just go resurrect at the church.
There's going to be a lot of video game jokes, guys.
Yeah. This is my wheelhouse.
Which is appropriate because, oh my god, the references.
Oh my god, I can't wait till we can talk about that. It is amazing.
Well, let's just go ahead. Well, actually, no. We should do, like we said, and up at the front, we should let everybody know. You probably noticed by now, but as a part of an ongoing effort for Editor Lucky to not either die or kill us, well, Editor Lucky dying would kill regular Lucky, but kill me or other people. We're taking a little bit of a relaxed week on the editing, probably like a minimal edit. There may have been a blip at the front. I'm pretty sure there was, because Editor Lucky loves to do that. But you may notice like a slightly lowered amount of visual effort. We're trying to get this turned around quicker and simpler and not stress about it. Also, we're having some concerns.
It's actually kind of...
Yeah, we're having some concerns developing our content. If you want like our full discussion on that, tune into this week's What's Up. I know for a fact it will already be out by the time this video is live on YouTube. And yeah, because I've already got that set up. But that's the first thing we discuss is we talk about some channel stuff going on. So rather than rehash that for half an hour, we'll give you the cliff notes, which is basically we're looking into it, but we might have to adjust kind of how we do our content anyway. And so it perfectly lined up basically with the fact that Lucky was like, I need to like sort some stuff out and maybe take a step back from the editing for a little bit.
Yeah. It's actually kind of funny. Like, the last comment on our last FGO, some guy going, hey, this is good stuff, but it's late. I'm just like, he's not wrong.
No.
But obviously, he's new.
He is new. Obviously, like, he's not a long-time listener. But also, there's that, you're not wrong.
Yeah, you're not wrong. So, in an effort for that, so we can get you the soothing tones of our voice that much quicker, we're going to be taking a step back. This isn't to say that, like, this is going to be a constant thing, because I have got more ideas, but I'm trying to actually write them down and organize myself. And as we mentioned in What's Up, there's some shit going on that we gotta hash out. We might talk about that a little bit more at the end if we have time.
Yeah, we'll see. There's going to be a lot of talk. Well, there's going to be a lot of me talking in this episode, but also we have a first impressions about an event, and we really like the event in case you can't tell, so...
Yeah!
Watch out for suddenly a whole hour has gone by.
Yep.
Well, let's go ahead and power through our usual business. Let's check in with everybody's favorite Kohai, Mesh.
Senpai, 起きてください.
That's right, everybody. It's time for Wake the Fuck Up Senpai, our regular segment for pro tips. Lucky, this is all you.
This really is all me. So basically, this one came out because, like, I think it was like half an hour ago, Omega popped into our Discord and was like, hey, we need a pro tip. And I just said the first thing that came to mind, which was, don't gotcha and drive. That's our pro tip. But as soon as I said that, I was like, wait a minute, that's actually kind of serious now that I think about it. Because this is kind of a joke, but really, do not let the game, no matter how much fun you are having, distract you from the real world. There are plenty of videos out there showing what happens when people are on their phones and doing something like walking, driving, eating, like all those crazy things. As I said, this game's not going anywhere. You are going somewhere. Don't mix the two. We here at Studio Omega want you to have a safe and comfortable journey wherever that may be.
Yeah, just, play the game in a nice, comfortable space. Make sure you're sitting somewhere comfortable, because that's another thing we talked a lot about in What's Up, is about how posture is weird, and you should, relax more. Do the same with your phones.
While you're doing a podcast. like me.
I mean, I can't sit optimal, because I have spent many years, maximum villain lounging in chairs, like just sitting sideways, leg draped over the arms. I can't do that in my office type chair and have my mic aimed at my face. But if I could, full blown slouch way down low. I am a comfy sitter, guys. But yeah, that's the pro tip, and just. People think they can multitask. Most people can't, or if they can, it's in very specific methods.
Like me, I can't say I am somehow fucking phenomenal at walking and being on my phone. But that's because I don't stare at my phone. I use my peripheral to look just above my phone, so I can still watch where I'm walking.
Because I was about to say, walking and actually looking at your phone is not one of those things.
No.
I've talked before about my ability to multitask is entirely based on I can listen to something in my ears, like a podcast or an audiobook, and then I can also do manual work with my hands. That's it. That's that I can write and also listen to music sometimes too, but that's it. Like that's specifically audio versus like visual and tactile stuff.
Yeah.
I cannot listen to two things at the same time. I cannot very easily do two physical things at the same time. All right, well, with that out of the way, let's jump into Records of the Throne real quick. It's a short one.
Woo-hoo. Yep, it is.
So over the past week or so since the show came out, since we did the last show, rather, the show only came out a couple days ago.
I'm sorry.
But I managed to protect Shakespeare's smile. He is a good, ultra floof boy, super dapper. And then I got NP2 Beowulf and 2 Dangerous Beasts on tickets.
That's ahead of the curve, I think.
Yeah, I mean, it was 10 tickets. It was pretty good. Like, okay, no Cleo. That, I don't want to say it hurts, but I'm like, okay, it's a little sad, but it's not breaking me up inside. We'll see on a next couple of tickets I just get naturally. With the concern that Babylonia could be in the middle of November, I'm not sure I want to spend November tickets on Halloween, because there could be a Gorgon raid up. And listen, I like Cleo. Well, it's funny. I do really like Cleo, though I was very surprised that her voice in game is quite so high pitched. She's got that kind of like dangerous sweet voice.
Oh no.
The awkward silence. But yeah, so I'm like, huh, that's not necessarily what I expected or wanted out of Cleopatra, but okay, whatever. Listen, Omega's all about that contralto of danger. If a woman gets a little down here, that's okay.
Smooth like butter.
The only thing I'm remotely sad about is the potential that I will not get the the Da Vinci CE. That's the only thing that hurts a little bit. But I got 2 fucking Dangerous Beasts. That's great.
Real talk. I read the flavor text on Dangerous Beasts. It is fucking hilarious. Have you read the flavor text?
I probably have, but let's for the audience, because who actually reads the flavor text on CEs? Pro tip, you should read the flavor text on your CEs. So this is, it's quite a long one, yes. So it says, it is said on Halloween nights, a terrifying wolf girl stalks the halls of Chaldea. Dangerous. Oh, truly a dangerous beast. By the way, what's your opinion, Foe? Foe. Okay. So, we translated what Foe said, and he appears to have said, first, her belly's great. She's got a little more fat than usual, right? You should give me mad respect for not stopping her from eating too many dumplings. I have no comment about the destructive power of her breasts at this point. I was well aware of it already, but I was so surprised that my coat changed. Mash looks bustier when she's not wearing a shirt. It's dangerous. Very dangerous. The overall color scheme isn't quite my thing, but purple is the perfect color for Halloween. It's noble, innocent, and lewd. Maybe we should make it an extra class just for her, you know? I don't understand what you're saying. But I don't understand... Actually, no, it's I understand what you're saying, but I don't understand the way you think at all. So if you ever needed further proof that Foe is your boy, there it is.
Like, again, I fucking love our... I don't know how much of it that's a direct translation, how much has been, like, localized, but either way, I'm super happy with it.
Mad respect to Foe.
Mm-hmm.
Foe show. Yes, I did that. That happened.
Yeah. So I guess I'll take it a moment here. For my records, as I said I was going to do last time, I did get Needle Crease's Smiler protected. So I have all that chocolate all up in my caster slot right now. Goddamn that Final Ascension. Ooh. Yeah, I fan myself here. For my part, I also I spent a good amount of money. I spent $160. And actually, I'm actually below the curve for once. I didn't write it down, but I did get an Atalante. Now she's MP5. But other than that, I didn't get any gold servants. I was able to pull all event CEs though. I got 2 dangerous beasts, like 7 Witch in the Moonlights, like 12 Count Romani's Hospitality. But like no Cleo, no Vlad, nothing really spectacular. I was actually really surprised. Like I kind of do want Cleo. Like I don't like now that I've seen her, like how she talks and how she acts, I'm all like, oh, this is kind of precious. But I don't have a major drive to grab her. I might think I might actually be okay waiting until next year, or I might throw my like whatever quartz I make or tickets I make at the banner. But once it's done, I'm like, meh.
Mm-hmm. Cleo joins the Toe Club. Also, in case you haven't seen her used, because it's possible, she does in fact moonwalk, which is not how you walk like an Egyptian, but still good. Yeah, I think that's everything. We don't have any All the World's Evil or anything this week.
Thank goodness.
Yep. Unless, I mean, you could count the thing, but that's more just like that's more just of our continual struggles to make this a real thing. Make this a real job. Just like my parents want me to get.
It's an uphill battle.
Mm-hmm. But we try.
We try.
I mean, not to toot our own horns, but over the past, we said this last week, but over the past couple of weeks, our Patreon kind of blew up a little bit again.
It did?
Yeah, the past couple weeks. Because we're at over $100, like we said, and we're at like 22 people. It's almost to the point where, formatting-wise, I need to make 2 sheets of patron credits.
Like gasp.
So that was always, to me, was a little bit of a milestone in my mind. It's like, oh, there's so many people we have to thank for their support that, like, it's going to take me 2 whole pages. Anyway, Skelograms. News is pretty light this week because there's 2 events that are ongoing for like 2 weeks, but hey, Oniland happened. And the CE and their little insert images are cool.
Okay, I'm gonna have to stop you right there because, as I said, I fucking called it. Redrop has done it again. Praise Redrop and their Lancer Artoria CE. We have gone full lewd.
Oh, it's great.
Like, it's like, there is no pretense of Halloween. It is just Lancer Artoria and lingerie and with the come hither eyes. And I'm just all like, I'm dead.
That was it. He died. He died right there.
Yep, this is now Ghost Lucky speaking to you. I am an assassin.
By the way, the title is Royal Icing. It's got a very short description. I could Google translate it, but it's not officially translated to English yet.
Yeah, let's wait.
I mean, I think it makes sense. Do you want me to read it?
Okay, fine, whatever.
It is a sugar confection like ice. If you touch it, your fingertips freeze on the coldness, and if you lick it, your sweetness will, and then it kind of garbles here. It says, will tongue? That might just be like an onomatopoeia.
I don't know.
I'll copy it so you can read it too. It is justifiable to desire to be the treasure.
Oh my god.
So here, I will, in mod channel, I will copy the Google Translate. So, like, I don't know if the tongue is like maybe an onomatopoeia that doesn't work out in English, because Japanese does that with a couple words.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, by the way, Royal Icing is a shop CE. It's like Halloween Princess. So that's pretty good. There's also another one of them is 3 Angler, which is a Hollow Ataraxia shout out. But
Still
it shows
using Gate of Babylon to fish is cheating. I'm just saying.
And then there's Emiya, and then there's Ku just lonely fishing by himself. Though it does look like there is a mini coup altar in the picture because you can see the little dino dog tail sticking out of the snow. That's hilarious. And then what's the third shop one? Oh, it's the bear hunting one. Frozen Battle Bear. It's got a giant bear, Li Shuwen with a gun, and Nezha in it.
Makes me think of Golden Kamuy, actually.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I was gonna say because Nezha's got a knife and a bow. I think I'm guessing that's what it's referencing because there's a scary bear and there's like, and the event is called Demon King and the Kamuy's Gold.
Yeah.
So yeah, those are the 3 shop ones, and that's pretty cool. And then they've got a couple good ones in the gacha as well. Oh, actually, we should probably mention the command codes. I didn't write that down, but they've added 3 new command codes. So one is called Seal of the White Vessel. It's got a grail cone on it, not an actual literal grail cone, but it's got like a grail on it.
Oh, I was excited
and that's
for a second.
The engraved card removes 1 negative status effect when you use it, so that's pretty cool. That's the rare one.
Pretty cool.
The 4-star one is Sword of the Dragon Slayer that increases the card's critical damage versus dragons, and then the 5-star one is called Evil Dragon of the Dusk. It's got Siegfried on it, and it increases your damage versus dragons with that card by 20%. So that's pretty cool if you wanted to build a dedicated Dragon Slayer build. There's actually a lot of anti-dragon tech in this event, but we'll get into that. And actually, I think we'll get into it right now if we don't have any other things to say about Oniland, because it's still in Japanese.
Well, no, I guess no. We can. The only thing I think I have left to say is actually about the servants, and you actually have that. You have a bunch of details down for new servants already.
All right, let's jump into free talk, and let's talk about the new Oniland servants. So, first off, Caster Shuten. She was a caster. I mean, let's be honest. Yes, there are a lot of caster welfares. However, do you want a free NP5 ST caster? I bet you do.
I just want another Shuten.
That's also fair. And Caster Shuten's pretty good. Magical Girl Shuten. So she's got a quick Arts Buster deck. Pretty typical caster. Her attack is the highest of all SR casters, but that means that her HP is the lowest. Her star sets are normal. You'd think her NP gain is low, but lo and behold, she has 4-hit arts and quick cards. Excuse me. So with her like just under 50% charge, that's quite a bit of NP charge in there. Also, she's got like a 5-hit extra attack. She's got a lot of high hit counts, actually. It's pretty surprising. Her first skill is a 6-turn cooldown, which gives the target enemy NP seal for 1 turn and lowers their critical rate by 50% for 3 turns. A solid, just defensive skill. Are you, enemy NP turn comes up where they suddenly charged up, you're like, no. Stop. Number 2 is her Bludgeoning Rod B, that gives her 1 turn of 30% arts and buster up, and also 500% star weight up. So, casters are pretty middling as far as star weight goes. This shoots her pretty high up there. The short duration isn't great, but proper use can make for some nasty critical hits. So she can't, like, full-blown NP buster chain, but she can still do, like, an arts crit chain, and then you'd, like, your NP would be charged up right away. You could do a buster, her NP, and then a buster, and then an arts on the final card to, like, hopefully charge her up again. But it's got some combination, but the short duration hurts a little bit. What doesn't have a short duration is her variant of her Demonic Oni power, which returns. It's the usual 20% attack up Team Charisma, but then it also adds her a 50% trait damage against Demonic for 3 turns. This means that, unironically, Caster Shuten is really good at beating up herself. Also Ibaraki. Remember, trust no one, not even yourself. And like 50% isn't as huge as the damage can do, but it's over 3 turns. And just like we said, she's got an opportunity to do some hurtful crits, and she has a Buster NP. So you'll do some hurt against some bosses, I think, that way. And as we said, her NP is Buster. It's single target. It applies sure hit to herself. It deals damage, and then it drops a not insignificant poison damage on them. It's a max of 5k per turn for 5 turns on them. So that can be pretty nasty. That's it. The minimum is like 5k over 5 turns. Useful if you have to worry about like break bars and stuff, or enemy guts. And while being Buster hurts her inherent NP spam, it's got a big hit count, and it'll put a lot of punishment you need to put it on, especially with her trait damage. This is backed up with a territory and item creation of B, so her arts are a little bit better and her debuffs stick a little bit better. And then she's got a tiny Divinity C for just that pinch extra damage.
Pinch!
All in all, while I'm sad that it takes the game over 3 years to get to her, she's pretty solid for a welfare. Like, not the end-all be-all it is Ryder Kentucky, but about, like, Shiki level, I think. Like, if you haven't happened to roll one of the relatively rare offensive casters in the game, she's a good supplement to just be like, okay, well, I can switch from just using Medea on everything. Because that, as the guy who does do that a lot when doing certain, assassin-type bosses, that's not as great as you'd like it to be. It's good, but it's not as great as you want it to be. I think, much like with Assassin Shiki, Caster Shuten will kind of bridge that gap. If you're like one of those people who got lucky and rolled Ilya, if you rolled Sunzo, that's
I have both. I'm set. Fucking set.
I was about to say, if you're one of those people like Lucky, you'll be fine. You don't necessarily need Caster Shuten in your life, other than that you need Caster Shuten in your life.
I'm one of those people who just need Caster Shuten in my life.
Yeah, don't worry. Well, that'll cover that. But in terms of niche, it's after the fact that just you have an offensive single target caster, then it becomes a question of, oh, well, are you facing a demonic type boss? Which, not unheard of,
More oomph.
But not necessarily gonna break her out over some of the higher rarity ones. So let's talk about Sitonai, or possibly Shitonai, or possibly Sitone. Actual fun fact, Japanese scholars and linguists, or even international linguists, haven't actually agreed 100% on how you should Romanize Ainu characters. So there's not actually an academic consensus on how to pronounce this name. Oh. Literally, they aren't 100% sure how you should render it. So
that's how it is actually with a lot of old languages. Like to be real.
So
like I think there's very few that people go. I think there's very few that people go like, no, this is totally how you say it.
Mm-hmm. So for sure, if you want to say Sitonai or Shitonai, you can go either way. It is like there's literally no expert that says it. Like I remember the voice jumped in our Discord after I posted the Clio wanted, and he's like, Omega knows that the P in Ptolemaic is silent, right? And I'm like, yeah, but do people watching our videos know that? Because we talked about like with Maeve, how annoying it is to try and say her name, because in order to make sure you know who you're talking about, you write it the way it's spelled with like the DB, and nobody who reads English is going to get that that's a Gaelic, an older Celtic pronunciation where you pronounce that with a V. Like nobody knows that without looking it up.
I think like before I knew I was calling her Medib or something like that.
Yeah, you pronounced all the consonants.
Yeah.
And sometimes you will still hear us say, because we're reading it off a page, like med or mebd, or something like that. We try and remember to say Maeve, but we're still English speakers reading what we wrote in English, so sometimes we goof up.
The worst I've seen was like Med B or something like that.
Yeah, some
crazy.
Some people listed off some funny Maeve pronunciations. I think, luckily, the community is mostly caught on how to say Skahawk.
Oh yeah,
because
Skahawk.
Otherwise saying her name would probably be kind of funny. Scat Hatch.
Skyhawk.
But yeah, so that's, but yeah, in this case, either is apparently acceptable.
Like Skyhawk.
So Sitonai is an SSR alter ego who is a story lock. So technically, she is the first alter ego you can roll off her banners. You have to roll in the story gacha, but it can happen. That's a big deal. All other alter egos up until now have been limited or was a event welfare. So yeah. And by the way, that rerun has happened. So if you are a new player in Japan, you are not getting your Mecha Liz. Probably.
Oh man, oh god, that hurts.
Yeah.
Oh god, that hurts.
But luckily for us, hopefully, we will still be playing the game throughput. We can get both Mecha Lizes.
then we can have a party full of Liz. That is an amazing concept.
Oh yeah, you can almost fill your entire support setup full of Liz at this point, I think.
No, just add Carmilla in that shit.
Yeah, no.
Technically, same person.
Should count. So, Citanai's attack is tied with Kiara, but she has a smidge less HP. That puts her, in the highish HP range, but the lowerish attack range, but still decent. She's quick, arts, buster, with a single target arts NP, which is written with an apostrophe for some reason. I may have been in a rush to write some of these notes. It deals damage, it reduces the defense and crit of a target with overcharge. I think it starts at about 20% and scales up to maybe 30 or 40-ish. And if they are a dragon-type enemy, it instantly eats one of their NP charge. No ifs, ands, or buts. They lose a charge if they are a dragon. Also, she rides on her bear and shoots them with a bow and then stabs them.
By the way, the bear is named Shiro.
Mm-hmm. Also, canonically, in her dialogue, she named the bear after Ilya's memories. So, the bear is named after that Shiro.
Dun dun dun.
Citanai's dialogue, by the way, is fucking amazing. It's adorable, it's clever, it calls to things. Some of it's sad. Her reaction to seeing Gil is epic because, well, but her line is literally something like, I want to stab that guy in the back, and then he's going to look at me and shout, "It's you?" But yeah, no, she has some interesting dialogue for lots of people, like Irie, like some of the Emiyas, etc. Jaguar Man.
I always enjoy when the Emiya family gets together because they always have the best lines for each other.
Mm-hmm. I mean, her line for Kiritsugu, for her dad, basically is very sad, but I think that makes a lot of sense because this is FSN Ilya and it's also Counter Guardian Emiya, so that's just a sad relationship all around.
Mm-hmm.
What for Irie's fucking hilarious though. Look it up, guys.
Do I want to be spoiled? Can I wait? I think I can wait.
But yeah, so her NP charge is pretty normal, considering she only has 2-hit arts cards, but she does have a 4-hit quick card, so she can get a decent NP gain. Not super impressive, but it'll be enhanced later by other things. Her first skill is Snow Fairy EX. It gives her 1 turn of invincibility and gives the team 3 hits of damage cut, up to 500 for 3 turns. So not bad for a quick defense. This is on a 6-turn cooldown. Her second skill is called Frozen Feelings B. It gives a 30% arts up for 3 turns and a 1 chance of debuff immunity for 3 turns every 5 turns-ish. So it's a solid NP steroid and generally boosts her ability to NP spam, because she has an arts NP that has a handful of hits, and then she's got, a couple arts cards. So you can get some boost off that. Also, the debuff immunity is just like a cherry on top, because her debuff resistance is already crazy good. We'll talk about that more in a second. But you can probably guess. Third skill is Kamui Yukara. It's kind of an Imperial Privilege light skill. You always get 30% NP charge. So she has a decent NP battery. And then you have a maximum 80% chance to get 20% attack up and 10 crit stars per turn for 3 turns on a 6-turn cooldown. But because Citanai is an Ilya, she counts as having the Ilya trait. Kuro's interlude buff, where she increases Ilya's buff success rate, applies to Citanai. So you can solidify that up. You can also use Ozymandias' third skill if you want, but it's probably more fun if you use Chloe. Also, they kind of have synergy because they're both arts-focused. And then she's got a bucket of passives. She's got Magic Resistance C, Goddess Essence B, Item Creation B, and Territory Creation A. So
What's Goddess Essence? What does that do?
Oh, so Goddess Essence it's like Core of the Goddess, or like it might even be localized as Core of the Goddess in some places, but that's a combination of divinity and then also an extra debuff resistance. So she does a little bit extra damage, and then her debuff resistance is high. It's the same stuff that like Urale and Setheno have.
Oh, okay.
So yeah. So yes, she has Magic Resistance C and then Goddess Essence B. So her debuff resist is high. And then she's got Territory Creation A, so her arts cards are even better. She's hard as heck to debuff, and her arts are quite good all the time. The package here is basically you have a whole lot of different utility against multiple classes, especially if your enemies are dragons, which, hey, guess what? Alter Egos are good against cavalry. Almost always your dragons are cavalry. Like, there's a couple outliers, Lancer Dragon. But normally you will see various dragons as, like, riders, maybe assassins, you know, possibly Zerkers, stuff like that. You actually have a couple of dragon enemies. Both the new Caster Shuten and the original Shuten are both dragon trait because they're attached to Orochi. So, a lot of use. She won't beat dedicated members of a single class, but she's got a lot of broad use. Like, somebody broke it down, and, like, if you actually used, say, Assassin Shiki, Rider Kentoki, and Caster Shuten, you'd technically have a better time if all 3 cavalry classes showed up. But because you can't predict, like, the ratios of various, you might take, like, Sutenai out to be like, okay, I don't know exactly what I'm getting into, so I will use a broad person to kind of focus this down. And like I said, she's got a little bit of defensive, and especially against dragons, she's going to have some interesting utility. So yeah, got a lot of broadness. Also, she's got, like, a couple different swords and stuff she hits people with, and she's generally entertaining. Alright, I talked about it. Let's move on.
Yeah! So, we're gonna go straight into our Super Ghoul and Pumpkin first impressions. So, event has been out, like, what, 3-4 days?
Yeah, I think this is the 4th-ish day? The 4th-ish night?
Yeah. And I'm going to say right now, I haven't been going too hard on the event. Not because I'm not interested in it, just because a lot of people have been saying that, like, you don't need to go hard into this event until after all the main quest is done and the event. Not the event, and the extra quests have shown up, because that's where you want to get your good grind on. So I've been taking this leisurely and enjoying the trip, and boy howdy, it is an enjoyable trip. Well, at least from my perspective. From the Master's perspective, maybe not so much, as you are literally manhandled into the singularity. You honestly need an adult that is not Roman. Does he
yes,
even count?
you are rugby tackled into the coffin.
It was actually quite funny, as, like, you are literally in this meeting, you're surrounded, and when you ask, where are you going, Roman's just all like, well, you're just going to Crystal shit. And everyone's like, what? And it's like, all right, time to go. And it's like, shit.
Like, literally, you get a dialogue option, which is like, okay, Mash, time to go. You're dismissed. And she's like, right away. And then he's like, nope, staffers, assemble. Form the scrum.
It's great. I also love the prequel where you have Cass Liz and Lancerbeth, fighting their mysterious usurper. And they had a very great dynamic. Apparently, the only person who could really stand Liz is other Liz, which makes perfect sense. And even they can't stand each other, kinda. It's weird. It was great. But because of that, there was a magical light.
And they fused into the perfect Crimson Heroine, Ellie-chan. We should also mention stealth quality of life update. We have Master Mission and Shop subs now.
Oh, I haven't actually checked that out yet.
Yep. Nope. You open up the store, you get subtitles. You get a little sub box in the corner. Same for Master Missions.
Nice.
Yeah.
I haven't checked that out. I haven't bought anything from the store. I think I've opened it up once, maybe, and I wasn't paying attention.
Yeah, it's real subtle. I don't think it's been announced anywhere. It's just quietly after the event dropped, people started posting screenshots and like, hey, we have subs now in the shop and in Master Missions.
Albert did say that was something they were working on, so maybe they might be, like, pushing forward to, like, in-game stuff, too.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we've had some in-game subs in fights. They've just been a little awkward to do, but yeah, no, this means that they are definitely dedicated to some level of subs. Like I've said before, I hope they don't sub, like, literally every bit of dialogue in the game, because, I mean, like, when you pick command cards and when you do animations, as much as I love some of their lines, like, you hear the same lines over and over again, so it would get a little annoying for, like, to see subtitles constantly pop up for every little line. But speaking of lines, though, the dialogue in this event is great.
Oh my god. Voice of St. Corinth has said like the LA trilogy is like his like favorite event in FGO, and more I think about it, the more it makes sense because the comedy and writing in this is fucking top percent.
Mm-hmm. We've got a couple choice lines scattered throughout our notes. Like, while we're talking about the beginning, the first one that's relevant is, "We'll get you for this, cougar lovers." Liz's shout at Tristan and Lancelot as they are thrown out of their own castle.
Something I do want to mention here is, I don't know, like, I might have just been noticing this now, but I love the little effects in this event, and one of them is that they're starting to do more with the sprites, the in-game sprites. Mm-hmm. Like when Ellie, when the double Ellies get thrown out of the castle, they actually have the animation of their sprites bouncing out.
With a lovely sound effect. Ba-twink.
Yeah, like, when Liz gets caught in a trap, her sprite's upside down. I still can't handle that they have a sprite of Brave Liz with a sign hanging on her.
That says, "Please adopt me." By the way, Lucky, I'm going to need you to fort up because, summer next year, there's going to be a Summer Ishtar with sign sprite.
Oh my goddess. But like other things in the event, like I just noticed this like a little while ago. Like when you progress in the story, there's a little Brave Liz who runs from node to node. I'm like, oh my god, this is
with little 8-bit footsteps. Oh,
oh my god,
there is so much love and nostalgia for video games in this. Also, talking about like expressions, like we can mention Ibaraki. Because of a lot of the candy stuff, but her sprites will switch expressions fast to mimic a chewing motion. She has like a little cheekful chewing sprite, so she will switch between like that and neutral to like mimic a chewing animation and other stuff.
The sneaky banana is sneaky.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, if there's one regret I have about that, Editor Lucky is probably not going to do a lot of work on this. It's that there will not be a tiny peek in bananas in the animation, and I'm saying there won't be.
Yeah, I'm sorry, there's not going to be.
Any you see are an illusion. They definitely did not happen. We get some more little details. Tristan sleeps in meetings. It's canonical. Everybody joked about, does that guy sleep in meetings? No, he sleeps in meetings. It's so sad. Also, he can fly.
Yes, he can. Apparently, that joke isn't as impactful in English because in the original Japanese version, that was something he actually said in English because unlike over here, Japan actually uses kind of like, since English is a language that I think is a mandatory class, especially in high school.
They teach you it in definitely in high school. I think also in middle school.
Yeah,
it's in their education course.
Yeah, so like they're more used to using English than we are to using Japanese. Although I will say for nerd culture, our Japanese literacy is a bit higher than the rest of the standard. But still, so they can usually get away with throwing in just full on English into their dialogue and usually be understood. So I feel like this is one of those things where localization really can't do anything about it. They would literally have to switch it into another language.
Which wouldn't make any sense. What would you do? Write it in French? But then people wouldn't get it.
Yeah, because unfortunately here in America, unlike a lot of the fucking world, we are pretty monolithic in our language.
Well, yeah, we... Usually at like high school or college level, there's some level of foreign language credit that you like have to take or it's encouraged to take, but we don't pick a specific language. So you get a lot of people who speak a little bit of Spanish, a little bit of French, some outliers like there speak a little bit of German. Some people took 2 semesters of Latin. So it's not a universal thing. If you're a huge weeb, Japanese is obvious also.
I just realized that the cave I'm in the Pips section 4 is just called Pharaoh. I'm like, oh my god.
Yes. No, they're great. There's one later in the Icefield one, which is the next Pip, is called It's Frozen, So Let It Go.
Can we just like next time I go to SoccerCon, I hope I see Albert and I'm just gonna give him a high five.
That's fair. Everybody give Albert high fives.
He deserves them.
Yeah. Something that Albert had no control over though is Ellie's battle dialogue, one of her cards is, I'm fairly certain it's Gao, which is like a dragon roar onomatopoeia, but cutesy because it's Ellie.
It just literally means roar.
It's like if she was saying rar.
Pretty much,
which
yeah.
fits her character perfectly. Oh my god. Oh, she's so adorable. You know that meme which is like, I want to protect it. I want to see it grow. This event was like 100% that for Saber Liz, Brave Liz. It's just wow. She is amazing and adorable. And oh my god, I wish I had more embers, because she says that when you temporary summon her. She's like, make sure to level me up. Give me embers. And the Japanese
she says it very desperately too.
Yes, level up. Level me up. Oh, it's great.
How self-aware.
The Lancelot jokes are also on point. Cleo straight up drops she's got the bants. Cleo is savage in this event, and she just does not stop. She is 110% brutal all the time. I
love how she punished that one guy. I love how she punished that one guy by giving him a paid vacation so he can go be with his family.
Mm-hmm. She phrased it as a punishment, but she really meant it as like, just go home. But she also drops the perfect bants. Sir lances a lot of married women.
I just got it.
Yeah.
I was staring at it like, what does this even mean? And I was like, oh, it's a sex joke. I'm dumb.
But yeah, it's great.
I can't wait till I get to that part. I'll laugh again.
Also, I believe we have confirmed that Nito is Lucky's spirit animal. Not only does giant Sky Nito appear again, she literally shouts hiss.
If I remember correctly, Ellie just goes roar right back at her, and I'm also like, it's literally like a fucking cat and hamster. It's a fucking like snake and mongoose just hissing at each other. Just
yeah.
I'm like, oh my god.
But
great.
yeah, no, Nito literally shouts hiss from the as a giant Sky Nito. Also, Lucky isn't to this point yet, so I don't want to go into too much detail, but we have the first canonical appearance of the sneaking into Master's bed trio.
If I remember correctly, isn't that Kiyohime, Serenity, and I can't think of her name. Raiko.
Yes, correct.
I've seen images of this.
Yes, it's a long-standing joke in the Japanese fan voice that has cycled a lot. This is where it starts, where they are first referred to as the sneaking into Master's bed trio. And I do feel a little bad for poor Serenity that she's lumped in with two lunatics. She's just like, I would just like Master to touch me, perhaps my head or my face.
I don't know. I remember Serenity in Camelot being all like, I remember her in Camelot where she was all like, we must get married or some shit like that. She's not like full yandere like the other two, but
yeah, no, she can be a little creepy. It's just in the event her dialogue is a little more subdued. I think that's part of the joke though, is that like they're all lumped together, even though Serenity is probably the least bad out of them. But that's just because Raiko and Kyo are fucking terrifying. At one point you're under Robin's No Face May King, his invisibility Noble Phantasm, and Kyo is literally trying to sniff you out.
That's terrifying.
Yes.
You just cannot escape Kyo.
You cannot. That's her. I mean, one of her skills is literally stalking.
I'm just trying to think of how many events she just randomly shows up in.
Lots. But not. She's not as good though as Ibaraki, because Ibaraki literally sneaks into the race shift with you because she's like, Halloween's about candy, right? And Cleo is banned Halloween, and she's like, so there's no candy. And Robin Hood just feeds her candy by shooting at her. It's hilarious.
I've actually been seeing a lot of Ibaraki and Robin Hood shipping going on. Like, I don't know if I know this is probably something that's already been happening, but because, this is now happening. Oh yeah, no,
the dialogue references, and their dynamic is great, because Ibaraki is still a bit of a tryhard. So she's shouting stuff like, aha, foolish mortal, this candy cannot defeat me. Shoot me again, if you dare. Robin's just like, uh-huh.
It's the opposites attract kind of thing.
Yeah. Though I want to say to our, something I've noticed with our audience, a lot of people are a little harsh on our poor MASH.
Really? Why?
Because she kind of stands in the way, and like Matahari's tavern shows up, and Matahari's like, "Hey, you want to spend the night?" And Mashi's like, "No, we need to move on." Serenity says, "Can Master touch my head?" Mashi's like, "Absolutely not." But I will say, like, that's I mean, don't be rude to Mash. I think the point of MASH in a lot of events like this is to play kind of the sensible straight man, right? Like, and also because she is the constant, and because the game cannot account for a lot of player choice or even a lot of different player dialogue, right? Like, it's just not in the programming. It's a game for phones, guys.
Real talk though, this is MASH honestly protecting you because, like, whether or not like Matahari is an assassin. Mm-hmm. She has a skill double cross. She is known for stealing secrets. So, you might like, no matter how sweet she may look, she's still dangerous. And Serenity, like, let's not Serenity. You might have this poison resistance A, but she still literally kills anything she touches. Like,
it's like knows? You can. I think that on the one hand, it makes perfect sense. It's okay for MASH to come off as a little overprotective, but she is also, that's her job to kind of look out for you. But I also think that as
squishy master,
as the constant, it's also good for her, especially in these comedic events, to play the straight man and to make sure the event keeps going, because they do not have the time or dialogue space to linger. So it's just like, the joke is Matahari's like, "Do you want to spend the night?" Wink, wink, nudge, nudge, nudge. MASH is like, "No, this will not solve the singularity or get us out of here any faster. Let's keep going." And then MASH is one of the people who, when you run into Ellie Chan at the bar, immediately is like, "Let's get the fuck out of here." Because you have to remember, we mentioned it earlier, you're not in this singularity by choice.
Yeah.
Like, I think you latch on because Brave Liz is so innocent and, like, genuine about her hero-ness that you're like, all right, well, we're in it now. We might as well finish the thing. It'll be fun. You kind of start playing along, like, as you gather the party. But in the early encounters, you were very much like, we really don't want to be here. And, Dr. Robin's going to end up with his head in a toilet when we get back to Chaldea. Kind of thing. Yeah. Like, you... And because the player can't have extensive dialogue, because that would take us the literal players out of the game if they forced too much dialogue on us, because then it would be like, but that's not what I would say. That's not what I think. Like, there's already a little bit disconnect with some of the choices. So if they exposited too much on the player, I think it would be distracting. So MASH is just like, let's just keep moving. Let's just keep moving on.
Let's get this over and try and make this as quick, as painless as possible.
And let's not be too sympathetic to the many, many crazy ladies we run into. We got other shit to do.
Yeah. I said, remember, MASH is your dependable kohai. This is first and foremost. Mm-hmm. Whatever she does, whatever she is doing out of your best interest. Always.
That reminds me of reminds me of Muses from Eclipse Phase. Your little AI buddy who follows you everywhere. They're supposed to be loyal to you, and they act in your best interests. But being humans, your best interest is not always what you want to do.
Yeah. You're human.
Your best interest is sometimes like, you should sleep now, or you should eat something, and you're like, no, I must do the thing.
Gonna do that thing.
And MASH, much like your AI buddy, would be like, okay, master, I'm gonna go order some pizza then. Yes, get pizza. And that's a very important question. Is Serenity gonna get you pizza? No.
Oh god, would the poison resistor work if you ingested? Ah, shit. These are the real questions.
It works on the demonic fog, so I guess it works if you inhale. I'm just more thinking that she's gonna kill the poor pizza guy. She's gonna hand him a tip, and he's gonna, explode.
Damn.
Black.
Guess you don't have to tip. Yes.
All right.
Anyway.
Yeah.
So, let's see here. What else about the events? Like, as I said, I'm a little bit behind in the story of the Omega. So, I don't know what fully
Shoes
is going
on the other
but
foot.
aha.
I mean, yeah, there's a lot of
said,
good
like, I've been-
references. Like, I mean, without explaining the jokes to Lucky, you can look at the map and go, "There's a lava zone, then there's an ice zone," right? So
Yeah.
you can tell there's going to be some humor there, and there is about the clashes of temperature.
Yep.
There's a lot of good character building. Nito's a lot of fun being herself, and also shockingly getting along with Liz, despite the fact that it looks like you might think, oh, they don't get along, but at the same time, it's like, but also they get along perfectly.
They actually mentioned this when you meet her, and how like in sync they are. And it's
Robin
great.
is stuck with you in MASH playing the straight man. Ibaraki's really the wild card, because she's Ibaraki, so she wavers from like actually making intelligent, thoughtful, cunning decisions to fucking just give me candy.
Excuse me.
So yeah, no, it's a really good event. It's well written. On the one hand, I'm glad it's a little bit time gated so that you can space it out, but at the same time, that's also sad because it's like, I gotta wait for more stuff. Whatever. We play lots of gacha games. We'll play other stuff instead.
Yep. There are Halloween events going on in all the gacha games right now.
Mhm.
Rip.
All right. Well, you pointed this to us, so go ahead and let's talk about the thing then.
All right, so real quick, it came to my attention that over in the Chinese version of the game, there was a bug. And it was a really interesting bug. You know what that bug did? That bug would make every roll you did an SSR. Can you imagine that? Like, just try to imagine that. Can you imagine the decadence you would feel of you obtain? But unfortunately, the result was the server was rolled back and the bug was fixed. I don't know if people got a refund or if like people were banned for exploiting it.
Yeah, I don't know. That probably depends on the individual account. But yeah,
Yeah.
no. I gotta say, I feel like I know some people have said like, oh, the rewards in like China or Korea are so great, but there have also been some like I know we had our weird CE bug, but that wasn't a serious problem for individual. Like, okay, like once they caught it and you were aware of it, they fixed it pretty quick. They recompensed us, and it wasn't like a crushing flaw. It was easy to fix, but both China and Korea in the past couple of months have had these weird like embarrassing bugs, like the randomizer was clearly broken and they gave you all SSRs, which is something they have to like fix right away, and could even ban people because they misused it, but it's their fault for making a bug. And then Korea had that thing, I'm pretty sure it was Korea that had the thing where a test account got out, which was like a server access account that had like access to lots of servants and other like debug features and stuff that was just out in the wild that people realized was a thing.
Oh yeah, I remember that. There was some
So yeah, that's it's always
some
interesting to
hard
see like how the different servers are run and kind of like what their different quirks and foibles and positives are. Like I know for a fact, like Albert has said, yeah, in the EN server we don't have a debug account. We just don't. Which makes sense because the English version doesn't have access to our servers. Which has its own problems but also has its own positives.
like real talk, I'm alright being run by Big Boss JP. It's like,
yeah, I mean,
literally...
I wish we could reach an understanding with them a little bit better, because I know that it's hard through like the time gap and the language gap and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, no, I mean, it feels like they're definitely doing an okay job keeping things on an even keel about JP-ish, and like we said, like, so we haven't gotten some rewards, but we have gotten generally better server rentage. So they've learned some lessons.
I would like to say that it is strict but fair. I think that's how I would sum it up.
Yeah. Some people probably have some weird baggage with the word fair, but I would say in a dictionary definition, yeah, no. Like we've talked about before, some other choices might not be great for your individual life and account, but overall, I think the server is fairly fair to itself, at least.
Yeah.
And hopefully, like I said, Albert has said he wants to do more unique stuff that's specifically for this server. I could see people being like, this is something that I've seen the communities for like Azure Lane and Girls Frontline asking about lately. Like, will we get like unique ships or gun or T-dolls in the English version? Will we get events early and stuff? And like, on the one hand, yeah, no, that could be cool, but at the same time, it's also like, wow, that's a lot of work though, and could be really weird. Like imagine getting mechanics and enemies like months in advance in certain places, right? Like that could be weird and jarring. And
Yeah.
so yeah, like it's always a mixed bag. It's like it's an interesting thought, but at the same time, I don't know if it would actually be good for us, right? You know, weird stuff.
No. It's like, I think in Azure Lane and Ghouls Frontline, they are actually on an accelerated schedule, because I think there was like a Q&A for Ghouls Frontline. This is where they want to catch up with the Chinese. And with Azure Lane, there was like some people saying like, why the fuck are we doing so many events back to back? And like they're
like, no, we want to close the gap.
Yeah.
But also I think we might even be doing some events out of order in Azure Lane. Like we're getting events that have stuff sooner because it's cooler for us.
Yeah.
But
so I'm like, on one hand, yeah.
That said, though, I think with Girls Frontline, it was also like those Azure Lane and Girls Frontline aren't that old though. I think the original Azure Lane server is only like a year old or more, or was that just the JP version? I don't know. They're not
the JP version. I think the Chinese version's been out longer.
Like
I don't know.
When we started FGO, there was a 2-year gap with a certain amount of time sensitivity.
Yeah.
So, like, that's a bit of a big gap to try and speed up to fill. And I think they've definitely done wise decisions. But also some of that has to do with just the nature of the games. Like, especially Azure Lane is so... Cubes are just so generous to you, right? Like, that's not even...
Yeah.
The cubes aren't even the premium currency. It's the gems, which you can turn into cubes, right? Like, I
think I've said this before, but I think, like, Azure Lane is, like, pretty much the top tier in gacha gaming, like, for me right about now.
I'm upset that the Halloween costumes are all limited.
Yeah.
But that's about it. That's it. That's all. That's all I got to complain about.
Mm-hmm.
Is the Halloween costumes are limited in the gem shop as opposed to permanent, which the swimsuits are. So it's a mixed bag. Anyway, let's jump real quick into So You Didn't Get That 5-star, the Halloween 2018, aka Just Extra Vlad edition. By the way, you're not there yet, Lucky, but the game has a solid intro for Extra Vlad in the story, where it's just like they're like, Uncle Vlad, and he's like, no, not that guy. I'm a completely different Vlad. I'm the one who's the great fighter hero of Romania who fights. Not the king, I'm the warrior, kind of thing.
Oh yeah, by the way, in the intro, I also liked how they were talking about like their friends, and like they actually called him Uncle Vlad. He was on a vacation, and Tomomo Cat went on a journey, and then they were wondering if she was lying to them. That's possible.
Yeah,
Tomomo Cat's a wild beast. She kind of does what she wants.
So Extra Vlad here has a pretty standard Lancer setup. He does favor HP much more than attack, but he's quick arts buster. His NP gain is also very high to compensate for his 1 arts card and low hit counts. He's got like a 1.1 NP gain per hit. So, like, pretty typical for Lancers with low hit counts. His first skill is Protection of the Faith, a plus.
Oh my god.
It's really just 3 pluses, but that's already ridiculous enough, so. It's an astonishing skill, too. It gives him a 100% debuff resist, a 2.5k heal, a 40% defense up for 1 turn, and a 20% attack up for 3 turns every 5 turns. This is basically the core of his kit. Every 5 turns, you get quite a decent heal, you can improve your debuff resist, you get a decent defense up, and a decent attack up. It is then immediately offset that he has an incredibly boring tactics speed. Just vanilla tactics speed, which, in case you forgot, is team NP strength up for 1 turn. It's not that great. However, his version of Innocent Monster A is pretty good. It's a 1-turn taunt, which also enables up to 9 stars per turn for 3 turns, and is on the same cooldown as Protector of the Faith. 1-turn defense up and 1-turn taunt. With a heal.
Seems solid.
So yeah, and then his NP is a pretty basic buster single target, but he does get Pierce Invul on it first, so it's a lot like Lancer Artori. It's just like, fuck your defenses. And it also has an overcharged base extra damage versus evil servants, giving him a very solid niche against certain bosses. There are quite a lot. I think overall they're about even between like good, neutral, and evil characters, but there are still quite a lot of characters that are various forms of evil alignment. So that gives him a solid niche against bosses. You know, combine it with his great kind of like tank strat. Very useful. His only passive is magic resistance. So the package deal here is basically a pretty no-fills Lancer, but he has a solid strategy. He has the ability to toss out stuff like an NP Buster Chain. And basically the only factor, I think, to him is making sure you can get to charge his NP, because he does only have one arts card, even if his NP gain is great. So you might have a little bit of time getting that up. You might need to give him some support so he can charge up. Otherwise, yeah, no, he's just, like I said, solid, no frills. Evil, destroy it, you know, tanks. Solid
Sometimes
choices.
you don't need sometimes you don't need a super special gimmick. Sometimes you just need to be solid.
No, he's got the move.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we're at an hour. On the other hand, if we don't do Teach Me Omega Sensei, that's technically going into the next month, which would be a little weird. Do you want to try and shoot the breeze this time?
Yeah, let's do it.
All
We
right.
said we'd do it last week. Let's not make ourselves liars.
Sure. We
I
never
would like-
lie.
I don't want to be killed by Kirihime.
We do not lie. Sometimes we just tell things that we thought were true but weren't.
Yeah, you can be mistaken.
All right. So, Teach Me Omega Sensei this week is, and actually for this month, is what is a Noble Phantasm? Question mark. Fucking finally. So, yeah, it's funny that, honestly, this is a very, much like defining what a servant is, this is a very fundamental question to the franchise, and I'm shocked that people didn't want to know more before now. But hey, it finally happened. We broke the tie. We're here. We're ready to go.
I kind of feel like people just kind of like assume that they know what a Noble Phantasm. They just kind of assume it's some superpower that like all servants have and wield. It's like how people like don't question like some people just don't question certain things. They just accept them as fact.
So, I should remind everybody that Teach Omega Sensei is our monthly segment. Every month we let our patrons at our $5 and up level vote on the topic. So, and then we basically do it the following month. We've got a couple we can probably add after Babylonia comes out, but right now we've just got two more, which is what is a reality marble and then how do mystic codes work. Personally, my personal opinion is that reality marble will flow very well out of Noble Phantasm, but we leave it up to you, the audience, to vote, unless there's a tie, in which case Lucky will tie break, and it'll be reality marbles. Just letting you know.
It will. 100%. He won't
So,
even ask
guess
me.
what? If you want mystic codes, and you're going to make it tie with reality marble, that's the same as not voting at all. Anyway, democracy. But let's talk about Noble Phantasms, and hopefully I will leave enough pauses so that if Lucky has some thoughts on some of these points, he can give them.
Yep.
Otherwise, there's a lot of talking. Okay, let's start at the top. The Noble Phantasm is a crystallized mystery, whatever that means. That's literally it. That's the only explanation. It's crystallized mystery. The term in Japan is usually auto-translated as treasure, like if you've ever Google translated a servant's profile in Japanese, like when new servants come out and they do data mines, NP is usually referred to as treasure. Sometimes it's translated as precious tools, but that's your general high level. They are the physical embodiment of a hero's mystery with a core based on human imagination, attributed to them through history or anecdote. They can be weapons, other support items, or esoteric concepts like skills, techniques, and more. But not capital S skills, because that's a thing the Grail does.
So basically anything that makes anything like superhuman that any servant or like folklore hero has done, that usually gets crystallized into some sort of noble phantasm.
Anything that is unreal, fantastical, mysterious, and is attributed to them through history or anecdotes.
Yeah, so it doesn't have to be like some big hoopty attack, because like a lot of times when people think Noble Phantasm, they usually think of like Excalibur and the big beam of light.
Yeah, we think of them as like how the game uses them as like limit breaks or super attacks, final smashes, whatever. But it's a little more nuanced than that.
Yeah, because if I remember, like it technically isn't like Achilles' immortality technically a Noble Phantasm or something like that?
Yes, I believe that's a Noble Phantasm, not a skill.
Yeah. 'Cause I remember like seeing like some weird things of like, yeah, no, this is actually their Noble Phantasm. It's just something that's it's just something that's constant.
It's attributed to him. And we'll talk more about constant activation types in a little bit later. We talk about the various forms they can take. So, I'll say this. The origin of Noble Phantasms is a bit unclear. While many Noble Phantasms originate from nameless prototypes, all the treasures of the world gathered in Gilgamesh's treasury, which were then spread across the world after he died, this does not include many divine constructs or similar creations. And then many more esoteric Noble Phantasms symbolize or embody aspects of the heroic spirit, such as reality marbles or technique-type Noble Phantasms. So, there's not necessarily one universal through line. All Noble Phantasms start here.
Huh.
Also, that is not to say that all Noble Phantasms are literally from Gil, just that because he was the first and he owned all the cool things of the era. Most later Noble Phantasms are said to be based on the same form of nameless legends, concepts, and archetypes which are represented by the prototypes. So, theoretically, Gil owned everything that was cool and awesome in his time period because he's the quote-unquote first. So, if you had a cool bow that was known to kill bears, there's probably a cool bow or spear thrower that Gil owned that killed big hairy mammals or something, right? That can be said to be its archetype. There is a nameless, basically caveman legend that precedes whatever cool thing you had in, like, the Roman or medieval periods. Which is also somewhat fair to say, because, humans like archetypes.
We do.
And then it is said the translation or generational shift of Noble Phantasms weakens their mysteries. Caliburn is considered to be weaker than Graham, which is weaker than Merodach, which is a otherwise nameless sword that's the same archetype as Graham. It's just some thing that Gil's got in the back.
I'm trying to remember, what was Graham from?
That's Sigurd's sword.
Oh.
Not Siegfried, but Sigurd.
Yeah, because I remember that Caliburn was based off another sword. I didn't know that Graham was based off another sword, though.
It's not really. That's a fake thing. They made up some sword name that's named after a Babylonian god. But it's like, but I have the first sword that was good for killing dragons. Because I'm the first.
Sometimes is, like, I don't know when Fate, like, real lore begins and then Fate lore begins.
Honestly,
like,
sometimes it can be hard to tell. Yeah. But yeah, as far as I know, I checked it before. Merodach is the name of some obscure, Middle Eastern, like Babylonian or Assyrian deity, which is probably where they stole the name from. But otherwise, it's not a big deal. But because it's older, it's stronger than Graham. Heck. And so our next bullet point is that the Noble Phantasm is said to be symbolic of the heroic spirit, and so it is their ultimate trump card. It can only be activated when they declare its true name and imbue it with magical power, and they're supposed to have only one true owner normally. But because they're bound by human thought, some NPs are more flexible in this regard. A servant can gain an NP that isn't theirs through misattribution, for instance. Semiramis is famous for this. She doesn't actually have anything to do with the Hanging Gardens of Babylon, but because people thought she did, she can access that Noble Phantasm. The Noble Phantasm is also considered to be outside the normal, so they can achieve stuff which isn't normally allowed to humans and even magecraft. That's pretty self-explanatory, but, yeah. you can understand that. They're just... Noble Phantasms are outside the normal rules. So the true name, though, is required. This is why servants don't like to use them willy-nilly, because to do so will almost assuredly reveal their own true name as a heroic spirit. See our video on servants, but basically servants are imbued with certain knowledge, so if you go shouting out the true name of your Noble Phantasm as required, most servants and heroic spirits can match your Noble Phantasm to you, basically. Some Noble Phantasms explicitly allow a servant to use another's Noble Phantasm as their own, such as Knight of Owner. And in other cases, Noble Phantasms may be loaned as a sort of contract, so long as it's a willing deal and then the NP is not particularly complex or power-intensive to activate.
The first example I think of this is when Achilles gave Astolfo his shield for that.
And that is the explicit example that I read when looking it up. So yeah, that's a Achilles says, I am willingly giving you my shield to use for this. We're squaresies. Also, I didn't write this down, but also you could interpret that as kind of an aspect of both of their legends. Astolfo is known to borrow or find Noble Phantasm type artifacts, and Achilles was known to loan out his many great armaments, like his armor,
Oh.
his shield, etc. So,
Oh, that's an extra layer. Damn.
yeah, it's actually surprisingly deep. There's no form a Noble Phantasm is required to have. It can be any item or technique owned by a person in life, or it can be from their anecdotes made real after their death. So, like, if you have the legend that you are the fastest man alive, and you become a heroic spirit, you could gain a Noble Phantasm that literally makes you the fastest man alive.
Huh.
So, early fluff, mostly Fate Stay Night and Fate Zero, seems to say that holy or demonic swords are the most common Noble Phantasms, but this might just be the core franchise's boner for Saber's talking. Because honestly, Saber is one of the most rare classes. Like, I mean, cool swords are a kind of common theme in a lot of mythology, but I think, especially as we've kind of grown into, like, FGO is the big Crisis crossover event, we've lost a little bit of that focus on swords specifically. They're still important, but to say they're the most common anymore would probably be incorrect.
Well, yeah. Well, I'm thinking about it, like, back before the gun, it was all about the sword. Like, that was like.
Well, yeah, the sword was romanticized because it was kind of like the soldier's weapon. Like, any asshole can carry a spear. Like, you have peasants be pikemen, but professional soldiers carry a sword as like their professional sidearm. It's a lot like how the katana works in Japan. Most of your real fighting is done with like spears or naginata or bows, but when you're in an up close and personal fight, you draw a sword, and so the sword was like symbolic of the warrior. But it was also useful, so that's why like Ronin kept swords.
Yeah, and so that's why you have like, and so like with swords being romanticized, that's what gets put in legends, and then when legends blow up, they get mystical powers, and boom, all of a sudden you have a holy or demonic sword. Mm-hmm. Surprise!
So the fluff says that most heroic spirits should only have one Noble Phantasm, but in practice that doesn't really ring true. Lots of servants in both FGO and in other aspects of the franchise generally either outright have multiple NPs, or the ability to use their NP in different ways, or many cheat and can technically access multiple NP or NP-like abilities, such as Unlimited Blade Works. So yeah, like, the original Fate Stay Night says it's impressive for servants to have more than one, and like, the Fifth Holy Grail War is supposed to be like a top-tier show, because you know, Ku has a couple of Noble Phantasm attacks. Medea technically has two, but she can only really use one. Saber has a couple. Archer, you know, uses his projection and Unlimited Blade Works to have a whole bunch at once. Medusa has a couple. Actually, she has like 3 or 4, technically. But yeah, so even this is another one of those cases of like, your show and tell don't match up. You say it's rare, but most heroic spirits we run into in other fictions have usually 1 or 2, where, like we said, they can access different ways to use one. Having more than like 2, though, is pretty uncommon. Like, characters like Achilles and Astolfar are notable for having loads of them.
I think this is because it's just hard to boil down someone's legend into just like one big thing without like literally stripping them of their story.
I mean, like, honestly, Saber is lowballed. It's just the class system that keeps her with just Excalibur, because King Arthur is known for having shitloads of armaments. It's just, as a Saber, she must thus focus on the sword. But shields, lances, daggers, horses, boats, castles. King Arthur has a lot of shit lying around.
Mm-hmm. But this is why she is considered, like, fucking top tier.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, like, some of the Knights of the Round only have, like, 1 implement, maybe, but also they usually have, like, a couple. I'd have to actually double check. I wonder if Gawain's Belt of Bertilac is normally a Noble Phantasm, or if it's just a skill tied to one of his anecdotes. But yeah, no, like, the problem is that they tried to say, oh, Noble Phantasms are super rare and special, so usually you only have 1. But then they also have the problem of, like, but also, like, super famous heroic spirits usually have more than 1 thing that can be attributed to them. They have not just a legendary armament, but they might have a legendary skill, or something that happened to them, or they might have, like, other magical items, cloaks, rings, crowns, etc. So yeah. And once again, this is without outright cheating. Like, Unlimited Blade Works is literally a world that contains infinite swords. or Gills cheating. My back room contains unlimited treasures. So, Noble Phantasms are ranked much like on the scale of skills and parameters. It is said that a B rank Noble Phantasm is seemingly average, at least in terms of putting a numerical value on its ability to inflict physical damage. So, like, if you're talking about the average amount of actually hurting people, a B rank NP is the average amount of, like, damage dealing potential. But some of them obviously are not even damage related. Also, it should be noted that NPs are supposed to be much greater than normal attacks. So a C rank NP is like being hit with an A or A plus rank normal attack. So, you know, if your servant has like strength C, if they still hit you with their Noble Phantasm, it still hurts like they had a much higher rank of prowess because they're legendary. And it's also noted that circumstances of legend or other skills and mysteries can rank up or down a Noble Phantasm in use. A good example of this is not Clarent Blood Arthur, but Clarent itself, the sword. Because Mordred stole it and used it for treachery, it's ranked down. It's only like a C rank NP. If it was not tarnished that way, it would be a B or A rank holy sword that would like give her additional ranks of charisma and stuff because it's a sword of command and regency. But because it's stolen, it's tainted. Her lightning rage boner though is still very high ranked. That's all Mordred. Also, no, I'm not joking. That's literally what Clarent Blood Arthur is. It's how angry I am about my father, converted into lightning bolts. There's a description that even says even if she were to solve her differences with King Arthur, she would still be able to get angry enough about the enemy to shoot hate lightning at them.
This reminds me, I need to get you a button from Mordred Scream and Chichiwe in the drama CD when she's trying to summon Arthur.
I think I have that button. It's just very loud.
Yeah, I'll see about doing something about that.
But yeah, also, a Noble Phantasm can be ranked up for an attack in a situation that is called Broken Phantasm. You may have heard of this before. It is overcharged with magical energy and then breaks after use. Repairing a broken Noble Phantasm is very difficult. You need, like, specialist skills to do it. Or you need to be Emiya and cheat. Because he can just make a new one. But yeah. If a servant needs to break their own physical Noble Phantasm for any reason, see Deermud breaking one of his spears, it's also pretty easy for them.
I'm trying to think. I know there's some other broken phantasms. What were they?
One of Beowulf's swords, I think it's Nagling. That's got an inherent ability to become a broken phantasm. It is said that Arash's NP Stella is like a broken phantasm.
Oh, yeah, that's who I was thinking of.
There are a couple others which have the intrinsic properties to be like broken phantasms, but theoretically, I think anybody who wants to try and overload their weapon can. It's just, usually you don't want to. Also, Karna's armor's, it's not quite because he doesn't, like, use it for an attack, but he has the ability to, like, exchange Noble Phantasms to do stuff in ways that he can't take back normally.
Okay.
So, talking about Noble Phantasms in a modern time, most Noble Phantasms are lost legends by our modern history, so, like, by the time FGO take place, for instance. They have either lost their mystery and become mundane, or nobody knows where they ended up. But some of them have remained extant, like Avalon, and they can be used as catalysts, or they can be used by masters, and some modern humans possess them as basically advanced mystic codes via their bloodline. Bazette is a good example of this. She has access to an actual Noble Phantasm, Fragarak, a sword owned by a war god that is basically, like, granted to her bloodline, and they can use that to create Noble Phantasm caliber mystic codes. But the few that do exist, like Avalon, they're rare, they're hard to find. You can use them as a catalyst to summon the servant, but also, instead of, like, giving it back to them, like Shira does in some versions of giving Avalon back to Artoria, also, you can just keep them and use them. If you have the magic power to do so, anyway. Noble Phantasm use is governed by invoking the true name. Many don't apply their full properties or effects without being named, and the name makes it display its true potential. Some of them even have more advanced chants, like a Magecraft. I don't know if we'll ever get into magic specifically, because that's not necessarily, like, we'll talk about mystic codes because some servants use them, but actually discussing the magic system of the Nasuverse is a little beyond the scope of this podcast normally, so I don't know if we'll ever get to that. Maybe if we run out of ideas in, like, 2 years. But, most higher level spells in Magecraft require a chant, an aria, of so many lines and verses. Noble Phantasms can have full-blown chants. I don't think you really need them to activate their full power. You just need to say the full name, but you can kind of build up to them, and especially if you're using something that is magical in nature, you probably want to give the full chant. Also, NP chants are cool. Oh, and DGAV has brought this up in chat. Yes, the Einsburn's own one of Siegfried's NPs, his Cursed Gold.
Oh, yeah, the Rhine's Gold.
Mm. Which gives you, like, unlimited money, but also gives you misfortune.
Is the Holy Shroud of Magdalene MP? Noble Phantasm?
I believe so, yes.
Mm.
And the other Shroud of a Saint that comes up.
I can't remember what it
There's
is.
a couple saintly shrouds, which are basically like Noble Phantasms. They're items with mystery. Where was I? Yeah, okay. If a servant possesses an NP they don't know the name of, or forgot the name of it, Astolfo, a nickname or alternate name can often suffice, but it usually limits the NP. Like the tome that Astolfo has that he's forgotten the name of, he can't use its full power unless there's no moon and he gets his reason back. In that case, then he can
I feel
activate
like this is
its full
something that
potential.
Devil Saber has a problem with too, because isn't she actually like mentioning how she can't remember the name of her Noble Phantasm?
Yeah, she changes it a couple times.
Yeah.
Self-naming your NP to something cool or different likely changes its performance. Kintoki. There are also some continually active Noble Phantasms, usually defensive ones, which are just up all the time and don't need to be called on. Karna's armor, Siegfried's armor of Fafnir, Achilles' invincibility, just some attributes are just constantly applied to the servant, and they are always on, and you never have to say their two names. So that's kind of cool. They're very interesting intrinsic abilities.
Nice.
So, Noble Phantasms also have a classification, which relates to its general type of ability and inherent nature. This is the big one, guys. Most common we see are anti-personnel, sometimes translated anti-unit, which is suited to defeating a singular or a small number of people. Anti-army, which has a broad enough range to take out large peoples at once, but often at an increased cost. And anti-fortress is another common one. Also, literally, this is anti-castle. This is potent enough to destroy fortified structures. And then anti-world, an ability which is so powerful or esoteric it defies the rules and structures of the world, in capitals. It is not actually a planet breaker. Some of them have that function. But in general, the anti-world classification is just, it defies the rules of the world with a capital W. The self-tag is also a common NP tag, which indicates the ability only works on the servant or their allies, and is not directed at their enemies. The ability to create rather than destroy can also refer to an NP as a barrier, fortress, or labyrinth class NP. So, if you have the ability to like conjure magical barriers as a Noble Phantasm, that's not an anti-barrier Noble Phantasm, it's just a barrier Noble Phantasm.
I wonder what they say for Asterios then.
I'm pretty sure it's a labyrinth-type Noble Phantasm. But it might also be classified as anti-world because his labyrinth shenanigans are like, they defy the rules of our commonly accepted reality.
I'll check.
While you check that, I'm going to take a deep breath. And I'm going to say that because this is
Are you
Fate,
sure you don't
there are
want me to do
many
it?
unique and esoteric Noble Phantasm classifications.
You want me to do it?
Okay, if you want to do it, can you...
Yeah, I want to do this because I
All
am like... Okay.
Go for it.
So, because this is Fate, there are many unique and esoteric Noble Phantasm classifications. Here are some of what we've seen before. There is anti-mind, anti-self, anti-team, anti-gate, anti-mountain, anti-populace, anti-city, anti-country, anti-planet, anti-thaumaturgy, anti-treasure, anti-god, anti-dragon, anti-wave, anti-purge, anti-wisdom, anti-banquet, anti-principle, anti-king, anti-evil, anti-beast. I did that in one breath.
Yeah. And I think, literally every possible weirdo classification of Noble Phantasm that exists in Fate to this point. I'm sure by next month they will have come up with some other bullshit, and that'll be invalid, but there it is. Some of these are pretty obvious, like, anti-city, anti-mountain, or even, like, anti-dragon, anti-beast. That's not like that's not like a spooky story type beast. That's literally anti-animal and NPs. Some of them are weirder, like anti-self, anti-mind, anti-wisdom. Anti-treasure is actually it's basically a noble phantasm that attacks other noble phantasms, so that's cool.
Anti-banquet. What?
That's Tawara Tota's infinite rice bale.
Oh, yeah, I get it now. You don't need a banquet. I got this fucking thing of infinite rice. Whatever.
Oh,
that's great.
Yes, I will copy and paste this list for the patrons listening along. Because, boy howdy.
That's a lot. Okay, now we need anti-time.
Uh-huh.
I'm pretty sure there's going to be one in there somewhere.
I think that would technically be called they could give it its own, but that would be called anti-world, because that's like the flow of time is one of the rules of the world or something.
Nah.
But yeah, anti-wave, by the way, is Surf and Mordred's NP. It defeats waves. If you're curious what anti-mountain is, that's Ishtar's NP, where it's literally her anecdote of blowing up a mountain because people thought it was cooler than her.
Oh, man, Ishtar.
Soon. But yeah, like I said, a lot of these are esoteric. And yes, there is an actual anti-planet classification. I think that's BB's original cursed whatever crater, her actual CCC Noble Phantasm. That's actually an anti-planet. But yeah, so the common ones, like we said, are anti-personnel, anti-army, anti-fortress, and then sometimes anti-world. And that's it. That's all my notes. There's everything I think you need to know about Noble Phantasms.
So, do you know what I'm taking away from this? Noble Phantasms are bullshit.
Correct. I feel like this is the conclusion we have after every one of these statements, but it's especially correct in this case. Hey, did somebody write it in a story? If not, if they did, then yeah, we'll turn it into a thing.
God damn it, Nasavers, you are so bullshit. You don't even follow your own damn rules. Bullshit! Alright. But, everyone, applause for Omega. Much teaching.
Yeah. I think we said this in the last episode, but it's also important to remember, I read this in like an afternoon before a show. Not this afternoon. That was me writing notes in New Servants, but yeah, so... But,
you do a lot of fucking research. I appreciate that, because that means I don't have to.
Mm-hmm. Hey, I like to be thorough. The whole point is that we're trying to both understand this topic deeper, and we're trying to teach other people about it, because, like you said, some people just assume how stuff works, and that's, well, like we said, we have pointed out obvious cases where, like, okay, so the lore says one thing, but we all know from a meta perspective that's not necessarily true. Like, oh, every servant only has one Noble Phantasm. And like, I don't think that's as true. You might have thought it would be true when you wrote it, like, 10 years ago. Or I think it's like 15 years ago at this point. But now it's not anymore.
Sorry, I just got to the part of Sir Lance is a lot of married women. I had to laugh. It was good.
Yeah.
Because his reaction was, wait, what? I'm like, this is good shit.
It is. But yeah, so, like, the point is to exposit to people and let them know, hey, this is what we can actually gather about what the actual rules and regulations are. And hopefully so you don't have to read literally everything that's ever been published that's labeled Fate. Because that can be hard sometimes and take a lot of time. Also, you joke about Laplace's demon. It's not a Noble Phantasm, but that's a weird Magecraft effect that some people do.
Oh, really?
Maybe not Laplace's demon. Is it Maxwell's demon? It's one of those philosophical demons. Also, yes, Axe. I'm kind of surprised there's not an anti-love NP yet. But yeah, no, there's just all kinds of esoteric stuff. I'm trying to remember what anti-principle is. Is it like It's not necessarily anti-rules of the world. I'd have to look it up. Like, some of these are weird.
Oh, I remember Maxwell Demons. Yeah, it has to be Maxwell Demons because that's, the second law of thermodynamics being fucked with.
Mm-hmm.
That seems like a Magecraft
That
thing.
said, if... well, that's anti-world, though, is anti-physics.
Anti-physics.
That said, I wouldn't be shocked if also Laplace's demon is also a thing, because they called it a demon.
That'd be like some sort of like future, like some probability kind of NP. Like, should we get into it? Like, I don't know. Like, I don't think I can't explain like physiological concepts like Schrodinger's cat, Laplace's demon, and all that stuff real too well. Because basically, Laplace's demon is basically because the universe operates in a standard way over things. If you're basically able to observe every point in the universe and understand everything, you'll be able to basically predict the outcome of any given action.
Oh yeah, no, actually, that is it. That's the magic thing. Is they theoretically can create Laplace's demon so that they can know where everything should be and thus perfectly predict what will happen.
Yeah. Maxwell Demon is actually, like, I don't know Maxwell Demons that well. It's something about entropy.
Yeah. So Maxwell's Demon is a thought experiment, which how you might hypothetically violate the second law of thermodynamics. Basically, the thought experiment is a demon. This comes a lot in physics. Controls a small door between two chambers of gas. As individual gas molecules approach the door, the demon quickly opens and shuts the door, so that only fast molecules are passed into one of the chambers, while slow molecules are passed into the other. Because the faster molecules are hotter, the demon's behavior causes one chamber to warm up and the other to cool down, thus technically violating entropy. So it's a thought experiment about how, is the second law of thermodynamics literal? If you're actually curious, the answer is I still applies, because if the demon is expending energy to open and close, it is technically introducing entropy. It's just that to the outside, it looks like the system is being more ordered. Also, quantum mechanics is weird. Like it's one of those things where, like, theoretically anything can happen. Like, based on quantum mechanics, technically, if you shatter an egg on the floor, theoretically, the molecules that make up that egg and the atoms could just reassemble themselves perfectly. But the probability that this will happen is so abysmally small, you would have to wait multiple lifetimes of this universe to see it happen.
This reminds me of the monkey smashing on a typewriter.
Yeah, it's that kind of problem, like that the classic, which actually it's slightly related to Fate. I'm surprised it hasn't come up as a joke, but the joke is that if you, or the thought experiment is, if you put enough monkeys smashing randomly on typewriters, eventually one of them will produce the complete works of Shakespeare. Yeah. Because, and theoretically, yeah, if you you can brute force anything. Mm-hmm. It's just, do you have the time and energy to brute force it? If you assemble random characters long enough, you will eventually create the complete works of Shakespeare. But it might take you a long-ass time.
God, the universe is so vast and weird.
Alright, well, speaking of the vast and weird universe, we're at an hour and a half now, so I think it's time to wrap this up.
Right.
I will remind everybody that the upcoming topics for next month are what is a reality marble and how do mystic codes work. And we're always taking suggestions for this, so if you guys have any questions, which are not spoilers for part 1 yet, I know you people keep asking, but no, we're not going to talk about some of that stuff until we can actually talk about it. Like, people are like, can we keep talking about Grand Servants? I'm like, I don't think we can talk about Grand Servants until the story's over, because that would involve talking about future shit.
Lucky does not want to know about future shit. He likes being surprised.
Yeah, and it's like, we've talked about how there is a thing called a beast that's like a scary thing, but, like, I can't actually explain to you what that is until we actually see them in the story. Otherwise, I would have to tell you about the story that's going to happen. And quite frankly, the story might explain it perfectly, so you don't even have any frickin' questions. Yeah, just be patient. But yes, if you have other topics of, like, expositional or lore type stuff, we can always get into that.
Question, do you want to, like, broaden, like, Teach Me Omega Seconds? Because, like, we just did, like, a quick crash course on some philosophical theorems that, like, are kind of fate-related, but kind of not. Do you want to, like, open that up to people that's like, hey, explain how, like, this thing works?
Yeah, no, like, I mean, like, if you have questions about about esoteric concepts, especially if they're referenced in Fate, that applies too. Like if you wanted to be like, because like we said, there's an actual thing in Fate which is like Laplace's demon is literal, even though it's not meant to be that way. But like that was a perfectly valid explanation. So if you have any questions like that, sure, throw those in the comments too. The point is to exposit and do research on concepts that people might run into playing this game or in the Fate franchise that don't necessarily have clean explanations.
Tell us the history of Clock Tower. That'd be fun.
Yeah, actually, probably talking about the Mage Association, kind of what the fuck that means, especially because we are getting into some of that in Part 2 in Lost Belt a little bit.
Oh, yeah, huh?
And we actually visited one of the branches of the Mage Association in the story in Camelot. They were destroyed, but we entered Atlas Academy.
Oh, yeah, huh?
So yeah, we can throw that
greatest
there.
detective, Sherlock Holmes.
Let's go ahead and throw that in the list.
Oh, yeah.
What is the Mage Association?
Point to Lucky. He suggested something good. I'll pat myself on the back.
You're actually 2 out of 3 right now, because I think you were the first one to say, what's a reality marble?
Really?
Yeah. I know you were keen on it. I think you suggested it first. Somebody can go back in the backlogs and find, because I'll bet it'll be a conversation exactly like this one, where I'm going, so we need some more topics, and then Lucky jumped in and said, I want to talk about reality marbles.
I don't know. I can't remember, but that's nothing new for me. Good times, good times. Well, anyway, we're at final thoughts. Omega, you have any last things you want to say?
Not really.
We kind of mentioned that show, but our channel as a whole is going a bit of a debacle as we're trying to get our monetization going. So, as you've seen probably now, there's not a lot of editing going on, and it's for 2 reasons. 1, because we need to figure out some things, and 2, because Editor Lucky needs to figure out some things. They're actually 2 completely different things that just so happen seem to coincidentally go at the same time. So, 2 birds, 1 stone. 2 servants, 1 Noble Phantasm? I don't know.
I shrug.
I'm actually thinking, like, pair servants have 1 Noble Phantasms, because I guess that's how they work. Because you'd have... Yeah. Anyway! So, that's going on. So, like, when you see our bare bone episode, like, don't be, like, too worried about it. I said, we're working on it.
Yeah, we've said this before. We like the enhanced. We like that you like it, because we've got nothing but, like, some people have been, like, up and down on like how much they actually care about certain visual edits, but in general people have liked the slightly more diverse attention to detail, and we like it too.
Oh, see, like, here's the thing I just realized, because a lot of people say, like, they do stuff, and unless they have, like, some sort of cue, they don't look. So, like, one of the things I want to do in the future is I just want to get a sound effect that goes bing anytime, like, something has appeared on screen, so someone will know to look up and see what's on the screen. So I'm like, yeah, that'd totally be a great idea, but as I said, now I gotta just figure out, like, is that something we can do? God damn it, YouTube. Why you gotta be so difficult? Stop it.
Mm-hmm.
They don't want to give up money. They don't want to give out the money. That's the reason. That's what I'm saying right now. I'm on to you, YouTube. Yes. Sha. Sha, 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 sha. I'm gonna go be a snake in the corner over there.
Snakey.
Snake.
I am now thinking of XCOM 2 gifts. Anyway. That it? That's everything?
Yeah, I'm good.
Okay, time for the outro. Hey, everybody. If you like this video, be sure to give it a like. That is actually still important, regardless of what YouTube thinks. We love your likes. If you have any comments about anything, leave it in the comment section down below, just because we love to hear your feedback on stuff, and it does help us, like, discover what our direction is, because obviously, we've said this before, but if you just quietly enjoy the content, that's cool, but that doesn't necessarily give us anything to, like, change or grow, right? So, if you have thoughts, give it to us. And of course, if you are new here and if you've not already, please subscribe to the channel. And if you already subscribed, don't forget to that bell for notifications. Very important to know, because you never know when we will post a video. You really don't. Also, like it says at the front of the show, especially like we said with the complexity of YouTube, this is very important to consider supporting us on Patreon. You can get access to episodes early for as little as $1 a month, and you will right away, get access to the episode the moment it is finished editing, and also I make a cool thumbnail. but
Yeah.
it's very much an early access kind of thing for very little. It's our lowest tier level to get the audio. And you can get other stuff too. Like we said, you can up access at $5 a month to get access to the poll that lets you decide what our next TGO Mega Sensei topic will be. You can get access to other stuff, videos early, and so on. At certain levels, you can join in and listen to us live as, I believe, 3? Yeah, I got 3 people in here right now who listen. And we make sure to credit everybody who supports us on Patreon in the back end of the episode in some way. Sometimes we get a little we get a little goofed because like people sign up for us in like the middle of the night, and I'm like, so I'm online posting a video that has a different credits in it. So technically it'll go public after you signed up, but my workflow was this was made, a day or 2 ago.
Yeah.
We don't forget you if you see that happen. That's just, workflow stuff.
I apologize.
And that's everything. We hope you had a good time. We know people like long episodes, so we hope you were able to enjoy this hour and 40 minutes.
Heck.
While you did stuff in Halloween, because I'm sure there's lots of stuff to do. And I'm going to go ahead and let you guys go. Go on, get out of there. Have a happy Halloween, everybody, because it's going to be November when we make our next show.
See you next month. I need to go find a tiny sprite of Liz, because that thing's fucking adorable, and I want to make it an emoticon.